Now, if you build a business, you actually automatically are forced to look into the future because you have to try and get to a future state and you have to affect that change. With financial markets, you can't affect the change. Many people make the mistake of saying, I wish it to be so, and therefore I'll want it. I wish the Federal Reserve didn't exist. Well, they do. So you have to understand, how do they work?
The viewpoint of Pal is a potent wake-up call that brings into question the normal way of thinking that we have. Every single thing that we believed we knew about the market, its consistency, and its predictability is completely thrown off by him. Pal challenges us to face the fact that our conception of development is inherently faulty, and it forces us to confront this reality. Pal reveals the mind-blowing revelation that growth does not follow a straight line. Rather, it can explode, spiral, and shoot skyward like a rocket. While the majority of us view progress in a linear sense, Pal reveals this revolutionary truth. The advice that we have been given to take precautions and wait for patterns to emerge is something that he strongly encourages us to forget. The rate at which the world is moving is so fast that conventional models are unable to even keep up with it. We are challenged by Pal to stop looking for predictability and instead appreciate the beauty that comes from the chaos that is exponential change. Going into the unknown and taking risks that go against the grain of common thought are both important aspects of this. Furthermore, if you believe that Pal's statements are nothing more than theory, you should reconsider. His personal journey is a demonstration of the power that comes from taking risks and abandoning a secure career in order to build something that is groundbreaking. If you want to gain further insight, you can watch clips from his conversation with Shah Kim. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and enable post alerts so that you can receive additional content. Watch the video.
So the world of macro investing is a world where you live in the future and figure out what is the probability of the world going there. Sometimes there's a lot of probabilistic outcomes, and other times there's like two. It's pretty binary. So that is the key thing to learn, is to figure out what is the state of the world in 6 months or 12 months forward, not today. Or if you're looking at big secular trends, what is the trend in the next 10 years, not today's trend. For example, if you were to look at today's trends, you might say the Indian economy is sluggish and not that exciting, filled with bureaucracy. When you look at the secular trend, you say average age of 28, growing as one of the fastest growing economies in the world over time, low debt, and a massive Cambrian explosion in technology. So therefore, is that likely to be better in the future than it is today? And again, we'd ask ourselves questions with today. Is inflation going to be here forever, which is becoming the narrative? So what I tend to do is question market narratives. That's the contrarianism versus the work that I do. So I don't just question it for the sake of questioning it. I do it and say, well, for inflation to be here in a year's time, what would have to be true? We would have to see all prices continue to rise at 9% over the next year or two. Is that probable? Well, not if we have a recession. So therefore, what is the most likely outcome for inflation? Lower. Then the question is by how much? And that's when you start doing other work. So it's many people just look at the state of the world today and say, yeah, it's screwed. And they don't look forward to say, okay, what will it look like in 12 months' time? I think it's a trained muscle, I think. I think, if you were a more successful hunter in, Neolithic ages, you'd have been somebody who can anticipate where the animal is going. And then you'd figure out, okay, well, there's ways of anticipating where the animals are. And then there's anticipating, okay, what the season and when. And the better people are the people who figure that out. And it's a trained muscle. So most people don't really need to figure it out. They go to their job, they do their job, they go home. Now, if you build a business, you actually automatically are forced to look into the future because you have to try and get to a future state and you have to affect that change. With financial markets, you can't affect the change. Many people make the mistake of saying, I wish it to be so, and therefore I'll want it. I wish the Federal Reserve didn't exist. Well, they do. So you have to understand, how do they work? And that's much like the Neolithic man hunting. You need to understand the beast that you're dealing with and how it operates. So I just think many people aren't taught that skill, and you learn it. And I learned it by observing others. I was lucky enough to be in a position where I was working at Goldman Sachs, and I would be speaking to the world's most famous investors. And I remember seeing how they didn't operate in the present, they operated in the future, and would be joining the dots with their investment. If this happens, then this happens, and this happens. And that third step is where they made all the money. It's only when everything goes to that moment of the correlation of one do they care about the present. That's when you put on maximum risk or whatever it is. You know, those famous George Soros moments. But those are rare. Most of the time you're having to live out in the future instead.
When it comes to handling investments and markets, Raoul Pal is of the opinion that having a grasp of exponential growth is essential. Furthermore, he said that in cyclical markets, misunderstandings frequently occur as a result of the human predisposition to think in a linear fashion, which makes it difficult to comprehend exponential development or decrease. Pal brought to light the fact that conventional economic models are predicated on linear assumptions, which are incapable of taking into account the complexity of the real world. The identification of growth trends and the differentiation between cyclical and non-cyclical patterns were both emphasized by him as being of major importance. Moreover, Pal underlined the significance of being open to change and venturing beyond one's comfort zone, not just in life, but also in the realm of investment. Drawing on his own personal experience of abandoning a career in hedge funds in order to create real vision, he emphasized the significance of taking risks that are both calculated and considered. It would be beneficial to return to the interview and watch further footage in order to acquire new insights from Raoul Pal.
I think it's a really important thing, because a lot of the world is cyclical. And we're trained to believe in cyclicality and linear thinking. Now, what's incredible is economists are linear. They write models. The models do not represent the real world, because if you show a small child a chart of GDP, it goes up and down in a cycle. We know the economy is cyclical, yet economists build a steady state model, right? So we know that's wrong. But then many of us understand cyclicality, booms and busts, and that becomes law to us. But it's not law. It's law to some things. Exponentiality is something that you see most often in technology, viruses and other stuff. And at this point, you have to understand trend rates of growth, and is this cyclical or not cyclical? Is the adoption of AI cyclical or not? I mean, anybody will tell you it's not. It's a secular trend change. So therefore, why would you want to short companies that are involved in this business? You should be biased only towards buying them. Now, whether at what value and what price, okay, that's a market timing issue. But you know you're armed with exponential growth. And people don't see that because they fear it. Because if I say to you, oh, well, AI is about to go exponential, as are the robots, the first thing that happens to you is fear. It's like, what the fuck does this mean to me? Right? So you start now clouding it with emotion. And it's like, I don't want that. I don't believe in this world. I want to go back to the Mustang and the days of gasoline, and, you know, where we would go to the ball game with our hot dogs, whatever it is, right? Whatever you anchor onto the past for safety. So people really fear change because change is unknown. So how you have to deal with it is embrace it. If you know there's a secular trend change, then embrace it. Because then it's where the magic happens. All the magic happens outside of your comfort zone. It's never in your comfort zone. So there's a circle, which is the universal set of my comfort zone. And then the magic happens in an entirely different area outside of that. And it's the same with investing. It's the same with life in general, is you need to be out of your comfort zone and understanding it's okay not to know, but to embrace. One of the things, I was working for a hedge fund, a famous big hedge fund, doing very well, and I quit. And I decided to go and move to the Mediterranean coast of Spain and try something I've never tried before, which was writing. And that was outside of my comfort zone because I gave up a lot of potential future income.
Right.
Starting Real Vision, something I knew nothing about, was even how to make a video, let alone run a company. But outside the comfort zone is where the magic happens. So I want to embrace it because I saw the opportunity. Blockchain technology, another one, outside the comfort zone. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what this really means, but I think I've got an idea and I want to be involved. So I actually live my life according to this. I go around the world diving with sharks. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. Or I love trekking across deserts. Why? Because it's dangerous. Not because I'm a thrill-seeking junkie. It's because you learn about yourself and the world around you when you're outside your comfort zone. That's why I like travel in general. I like to be in situations that is not a 5-star hotel with hot and cold running flunkies. You want to be in a backpacker hostel where you don't know what the hell's going on and you can't speak the language. Why? Because the magic happens there. The magic's never going to happen in a fucking Ritz-Carlton in some city. It's just never going to happen. But it will happen when you take yourself out of that. The Real Vision members and said, make me a video. I said, I know your demographics. You're on average 38 years old and you're this, that, this. I'm like, that means nothing. Tell me who the hell you are and why you use Real Vision. 300 videos came back. People shot on their iPhones. And the first one that came was from a scientist, a genetic scientist in a lab in South Korea. The next one came through from an astrophysicist at the world's biggest telescope in the Atacama Desert. A retired taxi driver, somebody who owned game parks across Africa, investment advisor, somebody in the oil and gas industry. I'm like, wow, okay, I've never seen a demographic like this before. And so we put together a word cloud of everything that they said to try and figure out what is motivating everybody. And the two words that came out from the middle of that cloud were knowledge and learning. And then we understood what we had. We had a community of the learning tribe. And so once we knew that, we could then think, how do we overservice them with incredible value? And that's why we launched, for example, the Real Vision Academy, because people wanted education. People wanted to be taken from beginner to expert. People want control of their financial lives. They want to have confidence in their kind of future vision of themselves. So that's what we realized we could do. And we had a moat, and the moat was community. And all we had to do was treat that community amazingly well. And part of that was the journey of Web3 as well, because Web3 is basically a community model at core. So it's like, it was so perfect for us. So that's what we've been heads down doing. It's very difficult for anybody else to do this because most people don't have the community and don't have the community of scale at Real Vision. And we're still not that big. But as we expand, you build a community, you create network effects. And if you create network effects, you can create Metcalfe's law, which is an incredibly valuable network. So that's really what's on our minds. And I think people need to do that. Step outside of what you think you do as an entrepreneur and actually ask your customers why, what, how, and think, what is it that I do? Because as you said, it's very easy to set up businesses. It's very easy to have competition. How do you do something that doesn't allow too much competition or gives you a lead time? You know, our lead time originally was long form interviews. Everybody said this is ridiculous. Nobody's going to pay for interviews. It needs to be 3-minute sound bites because nobody's got an attention span. That was the narrative, the hypothesis of everybody. And our hypothesis was, well, actually, finance is valuable to people. Financial information is valuable because it's your financial well-being, and you will pay for that. And also, people want more than 3 minutes because they want to know more detail, more understanding, because it's important to them, because it's your financial life. That was our hypothesis, and that proved out. So, you know, we all have to do these kind of hypothesis testing to figure out what it is we're actually doing.
Raoul Pal emphasized the importance of emotional ties in success, saying that people's emotional attachment to Apple, rather than merely its products, is a major factor in the company's trillion-dollar valuation. He suggested that instead of just promoting products and benefits, businesses should concentrate on giving their clients emotional experiences. Pal also highlighted the significance of prioritizing quality of life over material prosperity, relating a personal account of a life-changing encounter on a Spanish beach when he saw a family leading a modest but happy existence. His own aspirations for a great quality of life were influenced by this event. According to Powell, a stable and enjoyable existence can be attained in a number of ways, such as by possessing a home of one's own, residing in a good neighborhood, or having a rewarding job. He emphasized that material prosperity should not be confused with money, which is merely a vehicle to accomplish these aims. Pal also urged people to define quality of life for themselves, pointing out that it is a personal concept that differs from person to person. He urged individuals to consider buying imaginatively, even if it means looking at unusual choices, and argued that renting can impede a great quality of life by fostering emotions of insecurity. Pal talked about his own experience purchasing a house in Spain and how it gave him security and the flexibility to follow his interests. He underlined that achieving a high quality of life is a personal quest that necessitates setting unique preferences. Please hit the like button, share this video, and leave a comment below with your opinions. Thank you for watching, and please remember to subscribe.